Well, and it's amazing because I hear so many people say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time to read, I don't have time to go to conferences, I don't have time to work on my business. But the truth is you do have time. You know, Laura Vanderkam is a friend of mine. She's a time management expert. And when she has people track their time, it's amazing how much time they actually do have when you see where you spend activities. But research shows the average American watches 3 to 5 hours of TV per day, and checks their phone 150 times a day. And I love what you said a second ago. We said, which deserves my attention, my grandbaby or my phone? And if you think about it in that context, you don't want to focus on your phone. You don't want to give your attention to your phone, but that's what we do when we aren't being intentional. When we're not thinking about how we're spending our time and our energy, we tend to let it slip away in those ways. But if you can turn off your TV, put your phone down, it's amazing how much you could get done.
Yeah, the average millionaire can't tell you who got thrown off the island.
Yeah.
They don't care. And the number of days we go without turning on the television at all. Because when I turn it on, I end up disgusted with them and disgusted with myself for having bothered to put that garbage in my brain. The TV's not the devil, but there's just very little on there that lifts me up, that changes me, that makes me a better dad, a better husband, a better leader, a better speaker, a better what. And very little on there does that.
Right.
So I have to be pretty selective. I know I'm old now because we watch documentaries.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old, you know, but I'm trying to find something because garbage in, garbage out, you know?
Well, I love it too because it's such an example of like how little you watch TV, because the example you always use is Survivor, which I don't think anyone has watched in like a million years.
Is it off the air? It's off the air. Yeah,
I don't know what the example I always
Bachelor.
use.
Yeah, the Bachelor.
No, that's what I always say.
Can't tell you who got the rose.
That's what I always say to women because they complain, oh, I don't have any time, you know, I don't have time to go on a date with my husband. I'm like, if you know everything about every man that has ever accepted a rose on The Bachelorette, but you don't know about the man living in your own house, you have got a you don't have a time problem, you've got a priority problem. You know?
That's good.
It's a great example because it makes you look at, that's where my time goes.
You know more about their man than your man.
That's right. That's right. You get it. It makes you get it. It makes you get it.
That's a tremble.
Dave, this is such an important topic for these ladies because they do have a lot of irons in the fire, and I know many of them want to have that margin. Let's talk for a second about what it looks like to invest in yourself. You know, for example, the heart behind the Academy is to help walk with women and help them grow their business and be intentional in their business so they can make money and have time for what matters. The Academy opens next week, for example, and this is something that we're putting a lot of effort around teaching women how to do this. But whether it's the Academy or it's listening to a podcast or it's reading a book, what does it look like to create margin to work on your business, not just in your business, to read a book, to invest in yourself, to grow personally so that you can be more intentional in those areas? Because I know that's an area of these women's lives that gets pushed to the back burner. They haven't read a book, a nonfiction book in 5 years. They're like, I love to read, but I haven't read. Or I haven't been to a conference, or I haven't, done something to pour in. And if you don't pour into yourself, you have nothing to give to your customers or your business anyway. So, and you're such an example of this. You push all of us as team members to read, and you bring in great speakers. Like this morning, Stephen Mansfield was a speaker here for our devotional, and we're always being taught and challenged to pour into ourselves. But we want to teach these ladies to do that as well. So talk a little bit about why that's so important and how you do that.
Well, I think if we go back to intentionality, I remember when our oldest daughter Denise went to college, we were sitting in the what do you call when you're orientation, the orientation, right? And they're telling us how 57% of the people graduate from college. I'm like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
43% of people sitting here aren't going to make it? That's awful. That's a horrible failure rate. Oh, and almost none of them make it in 4 years. And so I wrote across her, I just reached over with a pen and wrote across her little book, have a freaking plan, be intentional. But, all 3 of our kids graduate from college in 4 years. And there wasn't, they're not brilliant people. They're just Ramseys. I mean, for goodness sakes, they're smart, but they're not brilliant. But all they did was go to class. And, why do you go to class? Why do you go to college? Why do you want to get a degree? Why are you taking a class on basket weaving? Why are you taking a class on monogramming? Why are you taking a class? Because you want to get better at it. Why is business different? Or personal growth different than that? It's not different. But somehow it's like we're supposed to feel guilty about that, but going and doing one of these academic things, that's cool. Right. We don't feel guilty about that. And so I got to tell you, I would treat it any kind of personal development, whether it's your reading time, whether it's Business Boutique Academy, whatever it is, I would just treat it like college. I would just say, I'm going to class. And I'm signing up, and I'm going to make every class because I want to get better. I want to be that person. And because here's the thing. When you meet successful people, none of them, zero, was it dumb luck.
You always say, no one wins the Super Bowl by accident.
Yeah.
I love that.
They didn't just wake up and go, "Whoa, how'd I get here?"
Yeah.
It never
It's a mystery.
happens.
Yeah.
It never happens. 100% of the time, they learn something tomorrow that they used 3 days later, and they learned it from a book or a class or a podcast or something. And it's the opposite of what we're talking about with television. If I'm going to turn the television off, I need to turn some things on. If I'm going to put smart things in, I get smarter. And we're finding this with Chris Hogan, our other Ramsey personality, who's got the millionaire research that we've done. These millionaires, they read nonfiction books. It's a high correlation between becoming a millionaire and reading nonfiction books. Well, no kidding. I mean, why is that? Why should that be like a revelation?
Right.
They don't know who got the rose, but they read nonfiction books.
Right.
Well, because they're doing things that affect their life,
Right.
not watching someone else be successful on the tube. And so, yes, whether it's our classes or a community college class or a 4-year degree that you've been wanting to get or a certification in Microsoft, I don't care. Or you want to write a book. All you do is just say, I'm going to do this, and how am I going to do it? I'm going to have to set aside the time to do it. I'm going to have a schedule with myself, and it's a made-up thing. But if you sign up for a college class, they would say be there at 8 a.m. And if you're not there at 8 a.m., you miss the class.
Right.
Do that for yourself. Be there at 8 a.m. Be there at 6 a.m. Work while others are asleep. There's all kinds of stuff you can do while everybody else is asleep. And just get up earlier, like we said, or some of you are light owls, stay up later, I don't care. But from 11 to midnight, that's your thing.
Yeah.
By the way, that's when Financial Peace was written. It was written from the time that Sharon and the kids went to bed, 9:30, 10 o'clock, when the children were very little. I started writing until I would get so sleepy, and around 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd go to bed. That's when I wrote the first book. I worked when other people were asleep because I had a day job trying to feed those kids. And that's all I did. And the same thing's on personal, that's when I got my work done. But personal development is part of your work. You have to know things tomorrow that you didn't know today, or you're going to have the same problems you had today.
That's good. I love how, too, it will inject energy into your business. It'll inject energy and knowledge into your life. You're like, oh, you read one sentence of a book that spins off 15 new ideas that you want to go run with. It's amazing how when you start putting new things in, it changes things. It really does.
It activates the part of your brain that is not for recreation. That's not running in neutral. It's running in high gear overdrive. I remember when I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when it first came out a million years ago. I was on a plane from LA to Nashville. So it's a 4-hour plane ride. I got on the plane. The book's not real long. It's a great little book. I've recommended it for years. Robert and I have become friends. We don't agree on the debt thing, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a book you ought to read. So I read the book, and I filled up 10 pages of a yellow pad on that airplane sitting back there. I was like a mad scientist, writing and flipping pages, and none of those ideas came from that book. But that book activated that part of my brain that says, I'm the owner, I'm not the employee. And that's the essence, the thesis of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is you're the owner of your life, you're not the employee of your life. And so you've got to have fierce ownership. You've got to do what it takes to win. And I'm like, yeah, and I could do this, and we could do that. And the more I wrote, I came home with like 20 weeks worth of work for other people to do. Right. It was awesome.
Right. Yeah. And it all came from, like you said, activating that part of your brain. A lot of things I hear women say are like, well, I'm not business minded. It's like, go read a business book or go get help or take a class. It's like, you can learn these skills. This isn't a gene some people have that you can't have. And I love how you talk about that, because it's amazing how I've had women write me reviews of business boutique and say, I love how you say da-da-da, whatever the line is. And I didn't say that. That's what they heard. They heard something different, or God spoke to them a different way, or they got a new idea from a section that they then put into practice in their business. And it's this living, breathing process. When you begin to invest in yourself, you get different results. I love that.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a protein or an endorphin that is released inside your brain. Something's happening there that doesn't happen when you watch The Bachelor.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't happen when you watch whatever. I mean, we can make fun of whatever, but that's entertainment. And your brain is in neutral or reverse when you're doing that. And when you're learning new information that affects the quality of your life tomorrow and for the next 10 years. When you read a book on marriage, Read one of Les Parrott's books, You read a book on parenting, Meg Meeker's books, It does the same thing. I can read a Meg Meeker book on parenting and get business ideas because it's not fiction, and I read lots of fiction. On airplanes, it makes them fly faster. So I'm not against fiction, but I have very intentional time. If I've got a really long flight, I'll read fiction because it makes the airplane fly faster. But if I'm really I got an hour flight to New York, hour and 15 minutes, about what it takes us to get from here to New York, I got to run up there and I get to run up there and do some media. Then I can knock out a bunch of business stuff in that period of time, and I'm going to start with 10, 15 pages of some kind of, even an autobiography. I'm reading John Adams' autobiography. It's an old book, but it's absolutely that thick. It's incredible what those guys did. And I'm like, well, if they could do that, and they had, they didn't have a car, they didn't have the internet.
Yeah, right.
They didn't have a smartphone.
Right.
And I can just Google it. I can do it.
Right.
And it just changes it. And they wrote the Constitution.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. The Declaration of Independence. Wow. and you start. Those people inspire you. But that doesn't happen with a spy novel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've gotten similar reviews from the podcast and the book that people say, and my mom even said this to me after reading my book. She said, it's not just about business, it's about life. And I was like, I didn't think that when I wrote it, because I wrote it for business. But when you start to hear what the market says, you're like, it's really true, because it's doing exactly what you're saying. It's affecting other areas of your life. You've seen a direct correlation between people that pay off their debt and lose a bunch of weight. Like, it's amazing how you start to be intentional in one area, it pours over to being intentional in other areas.
Self-control.
And you're winning in multiple areas of your life. It becomes a snowball effect in the right direction versus the wrong direction.
Self-control begets self-control. I mean, why do we go to church on Sunday? We know what the story is. Why are we going back again? We know what the songs are. They're going to sing the same songs. They're going to tell the same story in a different version over and over and over again. Why do we go? To get our batteries recharged, reset our spirits, reset our minds, center ourselves on God for the week, remind ourselves we're noble creatures, we're not animals, and that we need to act that way. And it resets us for the week. And that's all something like Business Boutique or reading a book or Business Boutique Academy. Or I go to events, I go to church, I read books, and those are some of the reasons that we're where we are.
Yeah.
It's why we're successful. And I meet successful people in every ilk, and that's how they got there.
Dave, one of the things that I think is so important, and this is something you're an expert on, and I'm trying to help women with, is being intentional with their money. We have these certain categories in Business Boutique that we want to help women win in, and money's really a big one. It's not just a big one because of who we are as an organization, but it's also a real pain point. They've got all these weird feelings about money. They feel squirmy about selling. They feel weird about a profit. They're like, oh, I don't care about the money. I just love it. I just love it. I just don't even care about the money. And so let's talk for a second about specifically being intentional with money in your business, because for some reason we have all these beliefs around money that affect how we manage our business and how we manage the finances in our business. In fact, this is what you're going to be speaking on at our Business Boutique event in a couple months in November. But let's talk about this really quickly, because this is something you know really well and you deal with even in EntreLeadership, and you've dealt with on the radio show for years, that there's this weird belief in our culture that's holding us back from winning. And why is that?
Well, I think there's a lot of shaming out there, to use a modern term, in our culture around the subject of money. People who have money should be ashamed, and they should be shamed, because automatically means they're greedy. And that's the negative, toxic connotation that's floating around in the atmosphere out there. And for those of us that are Christians, sometimes it goes into the church. And it's like, well, Jesus didn't have any money. Would Jesus wear a Rolex? The old joke, the old song Ray Stevens did 1,000 years ago, Well, no, he wouldn't. But so you shouldn't have nice things. You shouldn't be about the money. And so when I first started, I kind of came out of that, had that like guilt trip laying on me. And I felt embarrassed to stand on the stage and say, here's a book for $12 that you can get, and
right.
it will get you out of debt.
Right.
And if you do this, it'll be. But you don't have to buy it.
So
and it's
real.
like it was like apologetic.
That's right.
Kind of ashamed thing. And then a friend of mine, a lady, as a matter of fact, stopped me, and she said, "Did you write that book by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, you said you're a Christian." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Were you praying? You think God's Spirit was involved?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, definitely. God was all over this. I could feel His Spirit when I was writing it." And she said, "So you would conclude that God gave you that book? And I said, oh, definitely.
You believe in it.
I believe that. And she said, so you're ashamed of what God gave you?
Oh, I've never heard this story. I never knew that.
And I went, oh, I guess I shouldn't be ashamed. You know?
That's right.
And I went, God says.
You read this book, yeah.
It became a preacher. You know,
Yeah,
all of a
yeah.
sudden it's like I hold it up, but thus saith the Lord, you know, or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But, you know, no, I'm not ashamed of what God gave me. And her point was that why, and Craig Groeschel says it about wealth. He says, why is wealth the only blessing God gives us that we apologize for?
That's good.
And it's the same exact thing. And so I quit that day. I used to make fun of people who hawked their stuff. So, you know, Christians that would stand up and go, buy my book. And I went, you know what? I'm not making fun of them anymore. I'm going to be one of them. And it's not that I'm hawking and not that I want to appear to be greedy and be all about the money. It's that I truly believe what's in this book will help you more than it costs you. And so I think it's a good deal for you. It's like, if you've got cancer, here's a bottle of pills for $10 that will fix your cancer. I would think that would be what's known as a good deal. I would want to sell that with great enthusiasm
Right.
to people who had cancer. A lot of people have cancer of the wallet. A lot of people have a lack of hope to start their own business, a lack of motivation to start, a lack of skills to start their own business. And here's something for a few dollars that's going to make you a bazillion times more than it costs you if you do this stuff. This is the antidote. This is the vaccine. I got it. And I'm not ashamed of it. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary, I'm excited about it.
Right.
And so if you don't feel that way about your product, then you don't have integrity about your product. You don't believe in your product, or you believe toxic messages from the culture that says you're not supposed to serve people and make a profit doing it. Ken Blanchard says when you make a profit, that in business, it's your customers giving you applause. They're saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's just like you finished a Broadway play and you get a standing ovation. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you look down, you made a profit on the sale of your whatever it is you're selling, good or service. You're a massage therapist. Lots of people are walking better, feeling better today because you're doing what God gave you to do. Do it with pride. You know, that's the thing. And don't be ashamed. Quite the contrary. Be enthusiastic. You got the antidote.
Right.
You got the vaccine. And if you don't, then get it. Be proud of your product. Don't be a snake oil salesman and sell false stuff.
Yeah.
But if you got the real thing,
Right.
make sure everybody knows about it. And if somebody doesn't like you talking about your vaccine, that's okay. Keep talking about it anyway.
That's right. That's right. Just this last weekend, my sister was in town, and we went to it's the free concert series in downtown Nashville called Live on the Green, and they had their finale. So they had all these vendors set up, and I saw one that had a big banner that said "Social Enterprise." I was like, what is this? So I went walking up, just seeing who they were, and it was this woman, and she had all these luggage, handmade luggage, beautiful fabrics, really like feminine for women to carry luggage that's beautiful. And I said, tell me about your business. I'm just curious, wanting to know what's going on. And she said, I live in a small town in Tennessee, and one of the manufacturers there went out of business and lost hundreds, if not thousands of jobs. And so me and some of the women in the community said, we've got to do something to create an income and create, an economic impact. And so we thought maybe we could start to create these products and sell them. And she said, we don't care about the money. It was like the third sentence she told me. We don't care about the money. We don't care about money at all. It's nonprofit. It's a 501c3. I can show you the paperwork. And I was like, it was just amazing to me how
she felt like she needed to apologize in her elevator pitch.
Yes. And I just smiled to myself thinking, this is such a pain point for women. And I love that you're going to be at our Business Boutique Nashville event because you really give them the knowledge, the information, but also the inspiration and the confidence to go out and say that with pride. The example I use, Dave, is if a woman comes through a book signing line, for example, and she says, I'm excited about this book. Do you think it'll help me? I'm not like, gosh, I don't know. 50. No. Are you kidding me? I'm like, yes, it will help you. I can't wait to watch how this transforms your business and how you're going to win. And when you win, I want you to write me your story. Here's my email address because I'm going to share your story on the podcast. I can't wait to watch you win. It's that kind of confidence of speaking life over people. And what's amazing is the information in the book plus the confidence and life words of life you speak over them through your belief in the product and them can be the combination that makes them actually go win.
Amen.
It's just amazing how that, and it's not about money. It's about the belief in the service in the marketplace. And like you said, the profit is the applause. That's the natural response to you taking care of God's people. Rabbi Daniel Lappin, who we've had on the podcast and at our events as well, talks about that and how the marketplace, when you serve them, when you take care of God's people, that's the natural
It makes
result.
God smile.
That's right. I love that.
I mean, when you think about when one of your children takes care of the other child and helps them with something, as a parent, how you smile. And that's what your Heavenly Father does when you serve each other. And what if the narrative with the luggage lady changed and said, we're so excited to be making a profit because we're going to be able to hire more people and give more people in our community back their jobs. And we're unapologetically profitable. And we make really good stuff. And so you're helping ladies get jobs. You're helping this. I mean, we buy these leather purses from ladies that are made in Africa that are coming out of sex slavery situations, and but it's their job, and it's a for-profit business. It's not a 501c3, which, by the way, a 501c3 that doesn't make a profit is closed. It's an accounting function. It's not the fact that you're more holy. Just as an aside.
Y'all see where I get it. I preach that all the time. Same thing. Dave, I think this is such an important message for the women listening. I know it's so encouraging to them. As we wrap up, I would love it if you would just maybe tell our listeners and viewers why you are excited about Business Boutique and the future of this brand.
Well, I think there's two sides to this coin, and it's like most things, there's two sides to it. The basic answer is if you want to start a business or you want to run the business that you're running better, and you're a lady, and you use Business Boutique Academy, or you come to the event, or you buy the book, or whatever, any of that kind of stuff, and you use it, it helps you. And that's exciting.
That is exciting.
That's pretty simple. It helps you get out of debt. It helps you go on the cruise that your parents never got to go on, but you get to take your kids. You get to do stuff because you made some money, because you served other people. And that's pretty cool right there. But then if I stitch a whole bunch of those together, then what I've got is this economic force of untapped, very smart, highly educated, very relational people called women that have not seen their potential come out yet. And I think it's billions and billions of dollars missing from our economy because all of you haven't brought your ideas yet to the market, or you haven't taken them to market the way you should yet. Maybe you're already doing it, but you could do it better. Maybe I could too. But I think it's billions, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. If we take however many millions of people watching different things we have around here, and we said if everybody there made X number of dollars more,
right,
that's billions, pretty easy, And so I think there's a missing segment to our economy that's untapped. It's Texas, and there's oil here, people.
Yeah. And we're in on it. Well, Dave, I know that so many of the ladies are always excited to hear from you, not only your information, but just your encouragement. And you're so good at just speaking words of life and wisdom and just giving them that gusto of like, okay, I can go do this. And I know they're going to be so excited to hear from you at our Nashville Business Boutique event. So thanks so much for taking some time to hang out with us.
It's my honor. It's good to hang out with you. I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of you. You can do this stuff.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to find out more about my online training group, the Business Boutique Academy, you can check it out by clicking the link below.